Welcome to the roundtable. This is Jeff, the Huddle Review here on the chain, and we are exclusively on the chain here with co-host Chip. He's over here somewhere, one side or the other. What is going on? We have a special guest tonight, none other than the digital nomad investor. What's up, DNI?
Not much, guys. Thanks for having me on. How you guys doing? Long time.
It's been a long time having you on here. Looking forward to today's conversation, and we got so much stuff planned for tonight's show. We're going to talk everything crypto, everything geopolitical, and it's all getting ready to start right now.
And now, the roundtable with Jeff and Chip on the chain.
Welcome. Man, this is awesome. I've been looking forward to doing another roundtable with you, DNI, and we're finally pulling this together. Man, how's everything going?
Things are going well. Starting to open up a little bit where I'm at in my part of the world. So we got to visit a mall today for the first time in a while. Got to go for a Thai massage yesterday. My wife and I did. We used to go for them every week, but haven't been able to for about 3 months. So,
by the way, let's get into that.
Life is good.
Let's talk about that Thai massage thing. What is that, like a normal massage? It's just like, is there like one person working on you, or how's it work?
There's probably about 5 different ways I can answer that. So
I'm gonna say 5 different people. Wow. Okay.
No.
Maybe we should talk about crypto. Let's talk about XRP.
Well, hey, let's go into Thai massages. You know what? A legitimate Thai massage by a trained person. They send the people to a like a monastery with the monks, and they get trained. Or that's one of the ways they get trained. It is just like a slice of heaven to get one of these. And so it's just one person that's trained in how to do it, and you go for an hour, and it's like $7 US equivalent. So that's why we go every week when we could, when in better climate, better times. But so yeah, things are opening up here, and trying to get life back to normal, whatever normal's going to be. How about you guys? How are things over there?
Normal.
It's normal. Like nothing ever closed over here.
People walking around like no masks on.
Really?
Even in the shops, the stores, the restaurants, full capacity. The only one really I've seen anybody wearing masks are the people that work there. I think that's just to give a little bit of peace of mind. But it's about as normal in Florida as you can be. It's almost like, wait a minute, were we just closed down? Nah. People have short memories.
Yeah, it's like here we recovered from the hurricanes. So you get cooped up. It was for 3 months. It was like being in hurricane purgatory, where you have that preparation mode, but people kind of woke up and they're like, well, wait a minute. We're waiting for this hurricane to come. We didn't have to shutter up the houses. We have electricity. We have running water. We can still drive our cars around. It's not crazy.
Yeah.
I guess life is back to normal again. And then as soon as they said, okay, you can open, it's like, boom, everyone's out. That was it.
Boom, off to the races. It's still mandatory for us to wear masks in public anywhere. And as I mentioned, we have to check in with an app and a QR code at any place in public that we go into, whether it's 7-Eleven or the malls like we went today. And then every place you stop at in the mall, you have to get out your phone and click on the QR code and sign your name and phone number and everything. So yeah, so that part's not back to normal, but because that was going on during the whole event, the medical emergency.
That's interesting.
What kind of mask do you have? Do you have an N95 mask? Because I've seen people wearing masks. I'm like, okay, you're wearing a covering, but that just doesn't pass, right? Because if you've seen the cosmetic ones that are made out of foam, it blocks 0.02% or something like that. It's like 99% ineffective. It's like, oh, you can come on in. You have a mask on. Sure.
Yeah. I've got both. Yeah, I got both.
The one thing that's come out on this, though, is that in your area, do you have a lot of smog pollution, from car exhaust? Is there a lot of traffic, or is it not so much in your area?
It's a little bit more spread out where I'm at because I'm in like the beachy resort area. But I would imagine in Bangkok, there's a lot more. I shouldn't say imagine. There is more smog. There's more cars. As the middle class was growing in Thailand, the car purchasing cars became a big deal, and that just increased the pollution significantly, but not where I'm at.
Okay, because overall in Thailand, I mean, like you see in a lot of Asia, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic and bikes and motorcycles. So there's a lot of people that are exposed. So I think that could be, the one positive outcome is that it becomes more, normal, for people to wear a mask when they're in traffic environment. I look around here and now there's a lot of ads saying the best mask for cycling. You see, all these people on their bikes, and they're, behind a car and there's just exhaust pouring into their face. You put a mask with a carbon filter, maybe that's the best outcome. Now people aren't going to look at somebody riding by on their bike and say, look at that weirdo, he's got a mask.
Yeah. South Korea and China are worse than for pollution. South Korea and China than Thailand, I think, are worse for pollution. So
DNI, what city are you in?
It's called Jomtien. It's Jomtien, Pattaya. It's a beach resort area about, I think, 100+ kilometers south of Bangkok. I used to live in Bangkok. I never thought I'd live anywhere else than Bangkok, but it just got so sorry about side segue or side track, but it just got so commercialized. It used to be, just a really, make it what you want type of place, and then it just, the fast food places popped up everywhere, and the new stores, new malls, and it just lost, to me anyway, all its character.
Yeah, so I think it's a global phenomenon where everybody moved to the fast food. You see McDonald's and Burger King and Subway and all these restaurants, Kentucky Fried Chicken, all over the place. I mean, that was the big shock to me when I was over in India one time and we were driving. We drove from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. It's like a 7-8 hour drive. And on the way there, we had stopped off somewhere and it's like, oh, we're going to go to McDonald's. I'm like, what do you mean we're going to go to McDonald's?
Get a curry burger.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Over there, though, is veg and non-veg. Those are your options.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's crazy. So you see that over there as well, where you see the the franchisation of the region.
Yeah.
So I want to pull up my screen here.
I mean, it's not so much, just the restaurant part. It was just that, even the attitudes of people. People were just, the middle class was growing. People got more focused on commercialization, consumerism. 95% of the people in Thailand identify themselves as Buddhist. And that really showed in the way people live their lives. Now, mind you, I first moved here 19 years ago. So, any country changes. I get that.
Of course.
And it's an emerging, developing country, emerging market, what have you. Yeah. So it may change at a different rate, a faster rate. And but it just lost its charm for me. Bangkok did. And
is this where you are right here, DNI, right here.
You see me? Yeah. Hello.
No. Do you see the map or no? You don't see the map?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
This is where you are, right?
He's standing out on the beach over there, Chip. Can't you see him right on that little peninsula outcrop?
No. Go to where Bangkok is.
Yeah.
Okay. No, the other way you got to go to the right on the map.
Yeah.
And right about, you're almost there. Just move to the right about an inch with your cursor, not the whole map.
Okay, here.
Left. No. Okay, up. Okay, right in that area. Yeah, right on the beach. I used to live on that beach, and I moved. It was a tourist area and it was just too crazy. Drunk tourists every day, like all day long, all night long, dealing with them all the time. My wife couldn't go out and go to the store and without being harassed. And
that's not good.
Drunk people bumping into you everywhere you go. So we moved away from that.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question about when you go out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
You go out to get Thai food?
Pretty much, yeah. I eat Thai food about 90% of the time.
I love Thai.
Yeah, and the cool thing here is that they don't really distinguish between breakfast, lunch, and dinner that much.
I love it.
So like today I had chicken basil for breakfast, which is something I'd have for dinner, or I'll have pad Thai for breakfast, or garlic chicken, or whatever. So I mean, there's a couple things that are specific to breakfast or more, you eat early, but for the most part, not like in the West where you have, boom, 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 breakfast, lunch, and dinner type food. So,
but you know what? I mean, Thai food is great, right? You get a little of that coconut flavoring and, the curries, but it's perfect for breakfast. I used to love to eat Thai food for breakfast.
No, it's awesome. Leftover. It's healthy. I just like getting some, chicken or pork, and then either spicy or not spicy, some rice, and I'm good to go. So
I wanted to turn the conversation a little bit towards let's talk a little bit about XRP. There's been a lot of stuff going on. We had this whole thing pop up, this article that popped up with talking really, I guess, focused about the fact that Western Union is thinking about it, of acquiring MoneyGram. What do you think about that article, and what's your first sense on that when you start reading stuff like that?
The first thing I think of, without taking all the further details into consideration, is there's two ways to increase market share or grow your market share, or not grow. Two ways to increase it. One, to grow it organically, which is slower and can cost more, or buy it, which increases it, dramatically and almost instantly. But it can be more expensive. It just depends. That's the first thing I thought of. But then you start digging down into it, and you're like, well, wait a minute. Western Union already is the #1 company in their industry, right? So why would they want to increase their market share when they're already 4 times or 3 times larger than the next competitor? So it's not so much an offensive move, but you could say maybe that it's a defensive move. Do they see in the future that the second and third place, companies are going to start gaining on them? And then you could say, well, is Ripple and XRP a potential turbocharger for MoneyGram's growth and their efficiency? And so those are some things to consider. But I don't even know why. That's the only thing I could make sense of it with. Yeah. From that standpoint, I don't know about what you guys think.
Well, it's so strange. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say, the way I look at this is, I think that Western Union's looking at, if you look at the consumer market, the fintech companies and payment remittances is just popping up everywhere. There's always a new startup. We see this in the news all the time, right? Whether it's Ethereum, what doesn't matter what coin it is, what it is, but everyone's trying to solve in their own way this problem. So I think what's happening is they're seeing, if there's any truth to the rumor, they're seeing that the consumer market is drying up. The more competition is gonna reduce that. Now, when you can put move them faster and quicker for less money, that's gonna affect their market share, right? But you're right in the fact that they're so much larger and they're so much stronger than a MoneyGram. But MoneyGram, by putting these rails up and working directly with Ripple, they're creating something for the banks, right? Because banks don't have to take on any worries about regulation when it comes to remittances. They can just plug into MoneyGram, a third-party partner, move stuff around. So I think what MoneyGram's big play is that the fact that they're going after the institutional stuff. So they may be segmenting away. They'll always have that consumer part, but I think what people are starting to look at is hey, there's a lot of the bigger, I guess, market share really there has to do with the institutional stuff. So that's something to ponder about. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
I have no thoughts. No.
Okay, good.
No
you have thoughts.
Continue.
You always have thoughts.
Continue. Yeah, it's that I find it interesting. Was it something serious? Was there a real consideration, or was it something that was picked up by the XRP community and made something much bigger out of something that really isn't there? I think there seems to be a tendency of people within the XRP community to look at stuff a little bit differently than the rest of the world, so to speak. So here everyone's passionate about the fact that MoneyGram has been utilizing XRP. So now there's this big play by Western Union. Again, what is their incentive of acquiring, unless they're just looking at, again, dominating market share, and that's why they go through acquisition. But could they afford that kind of and why now? Is it necessary? you have two major, players out there. Western Union is a bigger player than MoneyGram, but what's their end game? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to do an acquisition at this point. I mean, I don't know what their balance sheets look like, but if we were to dig into their balance sheet, they're not going to be able to afford that unless, again, they've been, extremely outspoken against utilizing the Ripple technology for whatever reason. Maybe that's a way to get back into the good graces. But even then, why would you do it through acquisition? I mean, just start implementing and don't say anything. And then, a year from now, 6 months from now, or whatever, all of a sudden Western Union comes out and says, oh, by the way, we're using RippleNet. No one's going to think anything, So I don't think that's a possibility either. I just think, people are just making way too much out of it.
Yeah. MoneyGram has $1 billion in debt. Nobody wants to put that on their balance sheet. Nobody wants to acquire that.
Yeah, who wants to buy that?
It doesn't make any sense.
There's not a big lineup of queues for people waiting for that.
Yeah, no, and as of now, it's still just a rumor, right? Like there was no article, there was nothing, right? Solid saying it. So I wonder where it even came from.
Somebody who's a shareholder who wants to see the stock rise. Floats a rumor. I heard from a friend who heard from a friend who knew somebody who had a cousin who once mentioned something about this.
And didn't MGI shoot up too?
Oh yeah, I own the stock. It went right up. Boom, boom. It was so funny.
What is it? It's at 330 right now, right? 333.
Yeah, I haven't looked recently, but I think I bought it at $1.20. So yeah, I bought it at $1.20, and then it went up. But my dollar cost average, because last time I bought it in the $2 range, so the dollar cost average went up. But again,
it's easy to manipulate. It's easy to manipulate low price stocks like that.
Yeah.
So, and you see that a lot, when you get, small changes like that. I mean, you could have a small micro change, like here it lost 14 cents. But that's a 4% decrease in the price, so, 14 cents. But if it goes up by 14 cents, you can make a decent amount of money, 4 or 5% gain on your investment. So if you float, rumors like that, it could be one way or the other. You're expecting to short the market or otherwise, if that's the case, but you would have to have a significant amount of money invested, to want to even have that kind of a play to float those types of rumors, I would think.
But that's what day traders do though, right? I mean, they look for those 2 to 4% or whatever. Correct. I know I've been talking about arbitrage trading in crypto. I've been doing and researching for about the last 3 months, and 2 to 4% swings are those are profitable. We get in those, we do those. Yeah.
And look, you do that every single day. That's pretty nice.
Like Spirit, my brother called me about Spirit. He's like, Spirit, he bought it at 8, it went up to 26. And this is from May 15th. Okay, so from May 15th to just this past week.
3 weeks,
3 weeks, man. That's three extra money, man. It's pretty solid right there. 2 times, really, 2 times your money.
It's crazy, all of them, man. Even Delta stock, is up like $10, from its low not that long ago. About a week ago, it's down to $22.
Yeah. And Jeff, if I want to address something you brought up, because I think it's a really good point about, us as content providers, we have to watch, I think anyway, and I see it kind of get, I don't want to say abused. Actually, I do want to say it, but I don't want to say it out loud. Where we,
no one heard you. Just us.
Where we, pull threads and come up with a narrative, confirmation bias, and I try, in my show when I start veering too far off facts or fact-based, narrative, saying, hey, this is speculation, or I have no facts to back this up, so people don't start going, oh, DNI said this and he's, he thinks it's happening, or, I mean, still people are still going to do that no matter what you say to put out as a disclaimer. But I just, it seems like that's been, you'll see that here and there in our space. Like, oh, well, this person lives next door to the veterinarian of this person who goes to the same library as this other one. So therefore, they must be doing a deal together.
Must be.
And it's like,
no other conclusion.
There, are these, and I've done some of that, like with the globalist stuff, but that's because those folks meet together. but I think we have a responsibility to make sure we don't go too many steps out on a limb, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what it may be with this whole Western Union MoneyGram, because it doesn't on its surface make a lot of sense for Western Union to buy a company that it's got a 4 times or whatever the number is size of market share larger than, and like you said, Chip, is $1 billion in debt or whatever it is. And so we have to I'm just in a conceptual manner, I think have to watch that, and that whole Western Union thing may be one of those examples.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, look at what happened with XRP back in the bull run days. I mean, obviously it was timing, right? There's a lot going on with the market, but it was a lot of it was predicated on this whole Coinbase. Coinbase is going to list XRP, and it went up to 384. And when it finally got listed on there, I think it dropped. It's like it was like this. Everyone, the part of the speculation thing is that people have this speculation like, oh, if this happens, it's the if scenario. If this happened, that means this, and that means this. It's like, no, not necessarily. It just means that. But everyone builds like this whole house of cards on top of the if, and if that happens, that means so and so is going to do this, and that means XYZ Bank, and blah blah blah. And they read so far down the thing, and when I look at the views of other content creators, just in our community, and I see some of these headlines, and I go in there every once in a while and watch them, and I'm like, XRP, 362 by end of year 2020, and then you get into it, and it's like there's not a good justification for that number. It's like, at least back it up with something, right? But it's just like. Yeah, so there's all that too. But that, look, it gets the views. Everyone gets excited about it. That's, but, like I said, you're one of the guys out there that's, I love it because you speculate, but it's all based on real facts or knowledge or things, and you're telling people you're speculating. We do that too here. We say like, hey, this could mean this could mean that. People are like, click, turn off the channel, forget it.
A lot of people love the hype, and that's and it's fun, I mean, sometimes it's good. You want to feel uplifted, but I find it problematic, as I'm sure you guys do as well, from multiple perspectives. But if your if your channel is all hype, and like you said, and it's not based on fact, then the information you're providing is 100% entertainment, and you're not providing any real content. But yet the people are following these channels mainly because I always believe that people fit into two different camps in that scenario. Either you're following the channel in that hype scenario. The reason why people follow FOMO is because they want to be part of the crowd. They don't the whole concept, fear of missing out. So if you're following the hype, well, what does this person know that I don't know? What kind of information are they providing us? Are they insiders? Do they have that insider information? That's a real dangerous path to walk down, because, whether it's the content provider providing that info or the person following them, because nobody is going to provide that kind of information that's insider information, unless it's released on the, via regular media channels, whether they could write it on their blog, or they could put it here, they could put it there, but again, people feel like they want to go out. It's that herd mentality. I want to be part of. I don't want to miss out. And so they're going to go that way. The other camp is that when you see the negativity side of it, oh well, now we want, as a group, I want to be able to commiserate with other people that made the same wrong decision. So I'm not the only one that made a bad decision, and that's where it becomes negative in both camps. Because I don't want to have to commiserate with someone. I still don't know if they made the wrong decision, right? Whatever. Why am I going there to be patted on the back that we all made the wrong decision? Or why am I going to follow the herd? And that's what you see in a lot of these hypey type of, channels. And it's a bad path.
Wait a minute. You left out one camp. There's the camp of the cartoon bear and a Riddler. And that was the camp that I was in. I was like, I was in that camp for a little bit, and but no, you're right. There is what other camps are we leaving out of here, DNI?
I don't know. I mean, I have a method I use. I call it following the trajectory, and I just start out with the facts. I run through the facts, and then see where that leads me. And, you know, if we're going to go off the facts and try and see, you know, where that leads us, I don't know if it's, you would call it speculating or not, if there's any more dots to connect beyond that. But yeah, I try and just have a foundation of facts to run with. And usually, you know, if not, then you say, okay, these are the options. This could be happening, this, or this. But, you know, if I can't draw a conclusion that doesn't have any facts supporting it, either I'll say it or I just won't, you know, that it doesn't have facts supporting it, or I just won't go into it. Say, you know, hey, this is where we got to stop.
Gotcha. And that's good. And that makes sense. I like that.
But yeah, it's not hype. It's not always, you know, it's not always sexy, you know, so I get it, you know, but that's all right.
But you need to be able to do that. And that's what's interesting about your channel, you know, is that you go down that path, you know, and dig into and understand the dynamics. And a lot of people are just too narrow focused as well, because you talk about the geopolitical aspect of it and how it's potentially can impact the rise of the crypto space and impact the, you know, the valuation or the utility and the rollout, et cetera.
Global verticals, man, global verticals. So yeah, it's a niche. There's no doubt about it. Definitely a narrow niche, but that's where I have my experience and my background. And, you know, so that's why I even have a channel, is because I thought I could bring some value in some content that, you know, maybe people don't have a exposure or access to.
Yeah, well said. I mean, that's why I like to talk about the tech side a lot, because I come from that tech background and that tech. So you're right. You kind of spin it off things that you already know, and you know, also too, I think one of the cool things about doing this is that it kind of forces you to be aware of stuff and really look through stuff and research, because you know, back when I was you know, when you're like, I'm putting together an album, songwriting, if I was making a conscious effort right now to be putting together an album, I start writing all the time, because I'm working on something. So it's like when you're a content creator, you're consistently like looking through the news. Like Jeff and I took almost a 2-week break from streaming our regular streams and channel posts, because we're just working on a project that really is kind of outside this whole thing, but it's something fun we've been working on. And you know, I felt like after 2 weeks, I'm like, Jeff, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in the space. I mean, you do know, but you know, you don't do those real big digs, because you go like, hey, you're going to get on and talk about it. So because you're going to talk about it, you want to talk intelligently about it. You want to know. You don't want to just get on there and start, well, wait a minute. You know, this is you know, when you have some integrity in the space and when you have a little bit of personal responsibility, you want to make sure that if people are listening, you want to be putting good stuff out there, and you want to put your opinion, because look, we all give our opinions. At the end of the day, we all have opinions, and you know, look, some agree, some don't. I actually like sometimes when people come in and leave a comment and they say why they didn't disagree. I love that, because you want to get a different perspective on it sometimes. Sometimes people say like, well, you know, you said this, but I think this, and it's like, that's great. That's what this is about. It's about community coming together, sharing opinions. And sometimes somebody else came together, like the video that Jeff put out yesterday on the other channel. It came from a suggestion from one of the from Wen Mullet, who's, you know, a big supporter of the channel. He said, hey guys, could you give a little more clarification on the whole smart contract thing? So again, so you know, and Jeff did a really awesome video on that, of really digging down and tearing it up and showing the perspective. And it was very academic, but I think it was a really awesome video in the sense that after you watch that video, you walk away with knowing exactly what a smart contract is, what its function is, and why people are doing it, and how we're seeing that starting to evolve over time.
It's a business.
It's a business, man. It's a business world online. Because I think you say smart contract, everyone's like, yeah, smart contract. What is it? You know, and so anyway.
Yeah, I have a question for you. And you know, being that you're in Southeast Asia, and we're starting to see China really assert themselves into the quote unquote blockchain crypto space, you know, more than ever. We're seeing it with the digital yuan, but you know, the digital yuan, as we know, it's a centralized digital currency. It's not really going to fit within our same ideas of a decentralized cryptocurrency, which is, it's okay if that's, you know, from a national perspective, you would expect a national currency to maintain its sovereignty and centralized authority over it. so let them have that part of it. I don't think that it's going to necessarily spread, throughout all of Southeast Asia. I believe that, they're creating their walled garden, and every country after that will also want to have their own sovereign digital currency, for simplicity's sake. But I'm thinking more in terms of, there's a lot of other changes that are going on within China. I've talked about the Belt and Road Initiative that they're planning, I think, by 2030, 2040, to have an impact on 70 different countries, from an economic perspective. They believe their digital currency will also help spur that, so people will be utilizing the digital yuan. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, we know that China wants to replace the United States dollar as the global reserve currency. I don't think that's any big secret. The digital yuan may be one step in that direction, just to get started on that topic. And I think they're going to push for their whole country to be digital, and just like many other countries around the world, push to get rid of paper currency for the obvious overreach in reasons of tracking, tracing, taxing, etc., and control, and unbanking. So to quote Antonopoulos there, that was his phrase, I think, or label. Anyway, so that's what I think, just to kind of kick off that topic of the digital yuan. And also I think, we're seeing its effect similar to what the Facebook Libra project announcement effect was, which is kicking people in the backside and going, hey, wait a minute, if they're doing it, we better catch up. And of course, Brad Garlinghouse did his thing, right? And said, the rest of the world, and, including China, is going to pass up the United States. You guys better get it together, or you're going to lose ground to them. So it's having a lot of different effects, from just a global perspective, and then also from a U.S. centric perspective, that way. Brad Garlinghouse used it in that regard. So, yeah, I don't know what you guys think about it, but there's a couple different things that it's accomplishing for China.
Yeah, the Garlinghouse thing was funny in a sense that I was reading some of the articles, like Ripple CEO gives stern warning to regulators, and then I read his tweets. I'm like, okay, but it's like, it's funny how you can spin anything. The thing I worry about, I don't know how beneficial the yuan is. I mean, you can't even call it really a real token, because it's not. It's going to be a centralized thing, but aren't all CBDCs going to be centralized? I mean, do we really see the CBDC? How can it really utilize blockchain? Now, will it utilize a private blockchain? How transparent will it really be? It's great if you move in that direction, but like the Bank of Ukraine tried to do it with Stellar, and they try to more or less bring it in-house and privatize it a little bit. And that didn't go so well. So they were putting out, their PR people were like, well, we'd love to do this, but it didn't work for us. But if we could make these changes, the problem is that they were complaining there were no support for it. Well, yeah, they utilize the tools that Stellar has, but unfortunately, by trying to make it a private blockchain and try to really, it's really not designed for that. I mean, most blockchain projects are designed for transparency, and even in a private blockchain scenario, who has access to that? So I don't know about the CBDCs in general. Who wants to use it? And I think that no matter what we transition to, the reason the dollar, I mean, you got to give it to it. The dollar is just, I don't know how it's still standing. I think about that Elton John song, I'm Still Standing, because it should be dead by now. They've been printing it like an overdrive and just trillions and trillions. And yet there's a scramble on the liquidity side because of the liquidity it can provide, and the fact that everywhere it's still, whether you trade in petro, right, Jeff? I mean, even on the petro side, if you denounce it as the petrodollar, you're still grabbing it because value wise, and you look at what's happened with the euro, you look at what's happened against with the pound sterling, pound sterling, man, I can't wait to travel to the UK. This is I remember going over there and it was 1.8, and I was like,
it's $1.20 right now.
Yeah, it's
insane. $1.20 for the pound, $1.10 for the euro. But I think it's interesting. So the rest of the world economies are impacted, and have been impacted leading up to all of this stuff. It didn't happen in the past 3 months. So the whole global economy has been shifting. The U.S. economy will shift with it, but there's still going to be a major reliance on the U.S. dollar. I don't see the U.S. dollar going anywhere anytime soon. I don't care what China tries to do at this point. I don't care what type of anarchy or anarchist global anarchy movement attempts to bring down the Western countries into anarchy. It's not going to work. But the point is, with US dollar, the world needs stability. They need something stable over these years. So, and DNI, you talk a lot about, how they're, even with that stability and you have major controls, a hegemonic power. And we are really, now there's some balance a little bit with China, but it's still not there yet. You have one major hegemonic power, and that's the United States from an economic perspective, a military perspective. And China just isn't there. Will they get there? Who knows? I think that, as you have a communist country, politically speaking, other countries are going to not want to deal with them, even though we see a lot of circumvention of UN financial embargoes. So there's UN doctrine, stipulating, financial embargoes against certain countries like Iran and North Korea and others. And yet you see the French circumvent it, and the French banks have circumvented, German banks have circumvented it, and they all do it for what? Is it because of an ideological perspective, or are they doing it for the greenback? They're doing it for the money. They're not doing it for any other reason other than that. But when it all comes down to it from a trade perspective, everybody in a trade perspective, you want something that's reliable and stable. So even if we printed the US dollar into oblivion up to this point, so is the rest of the world. The rest of the world economy is in turmoil. We've just devalued the entire global economy by printing more dollars because the whole world relies on the US dollar.
Yeah, and they hold it, yeah.
And we hold control over the world because of that. But that's not 100% the US doing. That's the world seeking for stability. That's everybody. I mean, China, they, if the Chinese companies want to start trading in euro, then go trade in euro. No one's telling you have to trade in the US dollar. You can trade in whatever currency you want. You don't have to. But everyone says let's price everything out based on the US dollar. Because at the end of the day, they know that it's a good fallback. You have Chinese currency manipulation, etc. Here's another segue though. Staying in the whole theme of China, blockchain. For years and years and years, the Chinese have turned a blind eye to copyright and trademark infringements on from a global scale, right? The Chinese reverse engineer, they've copied, they've done all this stuff over years. Nobody can deny it. It's 100% accurate. To say that, I find it interesting because as things progress and move into blockchain, which we're starting to see more and more blockchain projects roll out of China. So one that really caught my attention is this new one that is called the Suzhou notary chain. And it's basically a notary that, according to the Suzhou Municipal Bureau of Justice, it's going to cover personal freedom, life, health, property rights, and more. I find it's interesting that they're moving into this blockchain, a test to have things notarized, video and audio as well. And it's to me, it's interesting. If it wasn't for the communist control, I would say, hey, this is interesting. It's important. But maybe it's important in general. So you spent all these years stealing other people's things, but now you're moving in a direction where China's reached a certain level of market share, where now they have to normalize. Now they can't cheat and steal anymore. Now they have to go legit. In order for them to go legit, they need something like this, and the blockchain is going to serve its purpose. What are your thoughts?
Well, I have to step gingerly on this topic. There's parts of the world that, the rule of law is not exactly followed as strictly as, say, the U.S. So if the blockchain can replace the abuse of rule of law, then that's a step forward for the countries, in question. So, I think it's a good move forward because it takes away the personal ability to manipulate the rule of law, right? If you introduce the use of the blockchain, and it's not, you can't manipulate it once everything's set up, or, maybe I'm not using the right terminology here, but I think you know what I'm saying. The more you can introduce the blockchain and take out the personal decision making about whether or not to enforce the rule of law. And when I say rule of law, that, copyrights and all of those, trademark violations and all of those things, amongst others. I think the better the countries will do with the introduction of that blockchain. I'm being kind of vague. But I hope you understand. You get what I mean, right?
100%.
Okay, yeah. So, so it can only improve. So then the other thing that pops into my mind is, well, does that mean if they don't like that idea that they're giving up control of manipulation of rule of law, will that be an impediment to implementing blockchain technology in places like China and elsewhere? That's that begs that question that, who knows? It remains to be seen.
How could they? That's a great point. That's a really interesting point, because if you're going to test blockchain technology, which if it's, the blockchain technology, if you can change the data in there, if it's not decentralized in nature and it's a fully centralized blockchain where you can document it, but the party still has control over it, where they can overrule, so then maybe that doesn't really change much, or maybe it does, so here's an interesting dilemma then, within China. Does the Chinese government, by turning a blind eye to a lot of the infringement on the copyright, are they doing it on purpose, because we know they have a lot of control, or is there just so much of it that they can't possibly observe every scenario?
Probably both. There's a lot of state-sponsored activity like that over there. They've been busted for it a lot of times. We've heard stories, and this one, and stealing from this university, and then they have that program, that outreach, that we'll call it an outreach program, right? Where it's, what is it? Gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Something where they wanted to reach out and get like 100 or 1,000 different people in the science industry or something. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know the name of it. But it was like an outreach program, but not a legal type of thing, at least the way I remember it. And then they got busted with, was it Harvard or somewhere, where the guy in the science department, that whole scenario where he was recruiting or something for China, and he was getting paid by China to run a parallel program to what he was doing. It may not have been the same type of topic of what he did at his job at Harvard. I think it was Harvard, but he ran a parallel. Though. Pardon me?
All the universities have a China project going on where it's subsidized, and there's so it's happening at all the universities. But I know I know the story you're referring to. But yeah, I think you're spot on about that. It's there's a lot of weird stuff.
And that's all state sponsored. Yeah.
Follow the money, man. Almost anything you do, it's like something happened. Follow the money. Where does that lead you? Hey, I wanted to segue to this. So at the end of last month, Ripple held a closed door, sort of a virtual meeting with the Central Bank of Brazil, right? So interestingly enough, it's like, that whole BRICS thing that I don't know if it really gained any traction, per se, because, it's what is it? BRICS was Brazil, Russia, China, India. Was it? Is India? Yep. So
South Africa in there. So if you look at that whole thing, what do you think is going on there? Do you think, because when you look at the remittance market, usually Brazil doesn't even though I know it's pretty big, it's not huge. Do you think they're looking at maybe an alternative method when they're starting to look at the central bank and moving money around in an easier way? What do you think all that's leading to? It's leading probably just, the easy way to look at that, which may be the correct way, is it's just another channel, another rail they want to develop But they've been meeting with 40 to 50, right? That's the quoted number, central banks for the last couple of years. So I don't know why that one was pointed out, because they had that one conference. I think it was in 2018, wasn't it? At the end of 2018, it was a central bank conference. It was closed door, closed off to the media, and that was that was a whole central bank conference. It wasn't just one, right? And one of the I think it was Dilip Rao, the guy that his job was like central bank relations or something to that effect. I think that's who it was. I'm maybe wrong in the name, but I thought that's who did it. And remember, there was a big big deal brought up about that, because like, oh, central bank, they closed the doors and no media. And so it may just be that, but on an individual scale that they're meeting with them. I don't even know why it was like publicized or brought up. You know,
I think the fact that I think maybe too, because remember, it was I think it was 2019. It was just only like a year ago where they opened up, kind of Brazil opened an office there, Ripple opened an office there. So it might be that they're just trying to connect dots there. But you're right. I mean, it might not have anything to do with anything specific.
Anything big.
Well, I think but I think anyway, when you're bringing stuff like that up, you're trying to. Look, I mean, it's been a slow news cycle. It's like, hey, this happened. Okay, it happened. So, so what? But it happens all the time. So
it's like we're doing it, but we can't tell you about it because it's closed door. Well, right, yeah, like you said, why bring it up? Other than maybe because it's like you said, a slow news cycle. But yeah, I don't think it's anything other than maybe they're just, until we hear otherwise, just another channel. I mean, if it wasn't a closed door thing, that if they didn't announce that, I don't think people would even bat an eye at it. It's like, okay, they're just building up another partnership. But why single out that central bank when they've announced 2 years ago, or however long ago, that they've been meeting with 40 to 50 and 50 governments? So like, what's the big deal here? So yeah, I don't know. I think maybe the slow news cycle thing, and maybe there is some, I don't know what it could be that could be significant other than what they've been working on already, to be honest with you.
Right. Why Brazil?
I mean,
why Brazil?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a good rail channel, whatever you want to call it. I don't doubt that it's good, good news, but is it any different than the closed door meeting they had with the other 40 to 50 central banks?
It was a news item, but it happened on May 30th. So yeah, you're right. So yeah, true. But what about the we see that first quarter ODL, the on-demand liquidity, was up 3 times, and then we see it continue to spike. So do you think that there's a little bit of I wouldn't say a pivot by Ripple, but you notice that they brought on cloud computing? This cloud thing to me seemed like
checks.
To me,
well, that wasn't a Ripple thing. That's right.
Well, yeah, it wasn't a Ripple thing, but the whole idea of being able to implement it faster through APIs and go cloud versus like physical installs with equipment. To me, I think they were a little bit late to the game on that. I was like, wait a minute, even though they announced it last year, but the fact that it's starting to get some press, that if it's getting a little bit of press, somebody's pushing it from the perspective of, hey, look at what's happening. But the cloud thing should have happened 5-6 years ago. Cloud's been going on forever and a day, and the fact that they came to it now, maybe there was a demand by the banks themselves saying, hey, going through the whole physical install and having a 3-week installation versus adding the code and putting it in our system directly and having some kind of an API connect. Maybe some of the regulations change around that about what they're able to do, but I look at these types of things as being very positive. But the ODL thing, what do you think? When we start seeing on-demand liquidity starting to trend upward, do you think there's anything going on there? You think we're starting to get some use, even though we don't know some of the players?
I can only look at it as a good thing. I don't. When I've heard that, I'm just like, okay, cool, that's good. They're growing. Liquidity is getting larger, and let's just look for more. So that's about as much as I thought about that. In a good way.
Yeah. It's positive. So, it's good.
Jeff, what do you think?
It's actually getting used.
Yeah. So I didn't look into it, in any real depth, to be honest with you. I'm not, but all good.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the utility, right? That's it. That's what it is. ODL. That's it, and once we start seeing, that movement, that's where RippleNet, gets a leg up over Swift. Until then, that's what it's all about. That's the full implementation of their technology. And the one thing as a focus in back on XRP, what are we waiting for? We're waiting for utility. Without utility, it's not going anywhere, and people keep looking for the good news. Oh, I want to see positive news. And then, okay, we see positive news, but why didn't that impact the price? Well, because it's not a stock, and even if there's good news, that doesn't mean the stock price increases. Good news still has to be backed up by the fundamentals. You might have short-term spike even on a stock price. Sometimes you have a retrace on good news, where a stock loses value because there's good news, but then they look at the fundamentals and they're like, oh, well, good news, bad news, and people have a sell-off, but here, what are we waiting for? With XRP, it's that utility. It's the ODL. The on-demand liquidity is the game changer within RippleNet. If they don't utilize ODL, then it's another messaging platform like Swift, and they're going to have a lot of competition. It's still a better platform because it's modern. They're still, and we're having a conversation yesterday, Chip and I, that you have to look at the banking adoption of their platform also requires a major hardware upgrade in many cases for many of these banks that are working off of legacy software, legacy hardware systems. It can't, maybe they can't even support new software protocol, because they had proprietary software written on old and legacy, antique hardware. So there's a lot that has to do, and the banks know from a security perspective, everything else, they need to ramp up their technology. So there's so many different aspects of this that I think that many of us don't look at. But I think it's interesting, so, but why Brazil? Going back to that, Brazil is being part of the BRIC nations, Brazil and Russia, also having, major, input as far as raw material, so Brazil still has a lot of raw materials. Russia has gas and other raw materials. And then I was just looking up, and then, India and China were predominantly due to the cheaper labor force. But I think, the whole conversation over BRICS is different today than it was 20 years ago. I think China, had kind of outed themselves from that whole conversation from a global recognition perspective, where India doesn't fit into that initiative any longer with China. I think there's a lot of conflict and, between the two, where India has actually more of a benefit to not be part of that environment, to take a lot of that business that's going to be fleeing from China. And same thing with Russia. India doesn't need to be involved in that. It's more of a bit, which is Brazil and India. And then that's it from a global perspective, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, obviously there's more to it, geopolitically speaking, I'm sure, but that's why I think Brazil potentially could be a good focus as to why, we should focus on what's going on with our banks. Brazil is still a up and coming, major economy. There's a lot that could come out of Brazil.
Yeah. Also, leadership change probably helps a little bit as well.
Right.
Might have transitioned the, every time you have a new president come in that has a different slant or focus, that could have changed as well. You start moving away from maybe, your international policy may change too. So there's a lot of things that could factor in.
Just a couple things.
We'll wait and see.
Who knows what'll happen? It's so interesting. I mean, things you can't even forecast anymore. It's like there's so much going on.
Craziness.
All the orchestrating. You get all the talking heads up on TV. Whatever I'm going to say, and then you listen to them. Like, what the hell are you guys even talking about?
The so-called experts are so-called wrong every time. They're so wrong.
Every time. Yeah.
They're not even close on anything.
Exactly. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, the whole thing that happened with this thing. So I'm reading this week that the person who did all the projections and numbers for this came on and said, we probably shouldn't have shut down, and I don't think it really made a difference. What? Wait, what?
What?
My head's spinning. I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You want to talk about someone going, being held and dragged before, but yet they continue to keep their jobs. And then there was other modelers.
And aren't they in jail?
Yeah, exactly. There were other modelers that wanted to remain anonymous, so they can still get their grants and they can still put out their stuff. But no, we don't want to know who we are. No, we want to stay anonymous. I was like, no, out every one of them. Talk about how wrong they were. And look, projection is a fool's errand, right? So you're not going to project almost anything. How many people get it right? But to be so wrong, so wrong, and and that's why I think this everything that's happening now. When I look at Florida, people are like, look, man, we don't care, and like I said, my nephew got it. He went to the hospital. They took an X-ray. Like, yeah, go home. Here's some meds. Whatever. Good luck. He's 18 and carries like. Meanwhile, against his, he ended up taking a ride with his buddy to Houston, and they were like in a public place. It's like, yeah, you're gonna get it. They weren't wearing masks. Look, it's gonna happen. But I mean, when something's 99 point something survivable. What do we explain why we need a vaccine? Like, there's always these hidden agendas out there. It's
oh, geez, yeah.
What do we need? What exactly do we need for something that's 99% plus survivable, right? It's
cash
like
money.
Right. It's like all of a sudden, we cannot reopen until we have a vaccine. I'm like, why? Now some of these states that have been closed over here in the U.S., their hands have been forced because you can't exactly walk back the fact that there's tens of thousands of people on the streets. Some are wearing masks. Many are not. Even if they're wearing masks, it only, the N95 blocks 95%. There's that 5% chance. And most of these masks expose 80%. So it's like, and then, you go back to that video from the Dr. F, I will call him, from early March, when he said, like, you probably don't really need to wear a mask, concern yourself. It'll make you feel good, but really don't. And then, whoa, no. That was before we knew how bad it was. How bad what was? Seems okay to me.
It's theater at this point. It's one big play. It's one big theater.
Watching a show.
Disruptions. Major disruption.
We'll see how it plays out. What their next step is. And. Are they going to ramp up and say, "Oh, we got an increase in cases," because they want to shut down the protests and say that caused an flare up, or or are they going to move on to their next stage after that? Who knows?
But you know what it proved?
Act 3. Wait for Act 3.
What it proved was how easy it was to keep people in their houses, to not having them go out. I mean, if you would have said to us 6 months ago, we were doing a stream, let's say the end of 2019, we're like, hey, there's going to be this emergency that's going to get triggered, and then everyone's going to sit in their house willingly, and they're never going to go out, and they're going to pretend like the Constitution in the U.S. doesn't exist. There's no Bill of Rights. There's nothing. We're just going to pretend it's all cool. You'd be like,
shut everything down.
Please, come on, that's never.
Yeah, shut everything down. Exactly.
Shut everything down and not use police or military.
Right, willingly.
Just the mainstream media.
Yeah,
people would say, you're crazy. Yeah, tinfoil hat.
Right, but how many shots do you get at something like that? I think this is a one and done, especially with the follow up. What just happened, we're also not going to see that happen again. I don't want to say we won't, because we probably will, but the whole stay in the house thing, I think, is going to be a lot more difficult. People aren't going to comply as easily and say, hey, I'm gonna destroy my business. The only way they can get compliance at this point, moving forward, is if we see a major spike in LA, New York, and some of the other major cities where they've had all these protests and riots. I think is the only way, because if there's no spike, there's no fear. There's nothing. Yeah, it's done, and they're already bearing it. I'm looking at the post. So Michigan, the governor of Michigan said, oh no, in May, no, we're extending everything to June 12th. All of a sudden there's protests. Oh no, we're ending everything. Go ahead.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. And then I find it interesting, in Bermuda, the premier of Bermuda had a statement that he said that there's an exemption to the gatherings and the protests that they're going to have in Bermuda. They're having a protest in Bermuda, but there's an exemption. I said, since when does viruses accept an exemption? Oh no, I'm a virus. Oh, you got an exemption to protest. Okay, I'm not going to infect you.
I won't infect anybody.
But keep your business closed. Don't worry about your family.
No infections during the exemption.
I just don't get that rationale. So it's interesting. So whatever happened before is done. Now we're in this next period, and as we move forward, again, no spikes. That conversation's done. Forget about it, unless they really come out with the potent one. and that just they drop that on people. Who knows, But it'll be
to try something different.
Insane.
Maybe that's when the UFO stuff comes out. We'll see.
That's what I'm wondering too. Yeah, maybe that's the next thing. There's been a lot of that, right?
But it came out. It's like, hey, we're releasing these tapes, and everyone's like, hold my beer. What time is it? Like, it's kind of like we've known about this, right? There's really almost nothing they can say. Okay, the moon landings were faked. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Give me something else. It turns out there are people living on Saturn. Okay, it's like this mentality we have of like, what's next, and self-satisfying, our belief set or systems. It's like, you've been hearing this for years and years upon years, and it's like when it finally comes out, you're like, yeah, what's time? When's dinner? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Well, the governments are getting so people are just not believing them more and more as time goes on.
No,
people are getting awake. I mean, it is what it is, and
it is.
This pandemic thing. I'm sorry, I said that. A word.
Geez. Strike that.
It's people aren't buying into it, and who knows what else they're going to throw at us. And that's why I said before we had like a 6-month maybe period of a real very increased amount of UFO coverage by the mainstream media. It was like all of a sudden, boom, 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 all the time. And there's people coming out and saying, oh, there might be life on other planets. I mean, just all kinds of craziness and I'm like, and I said on a number of my streams, I'm like, is it me, or do you guys notice an increase of UFO coverage? I said, I'm not a UFO guy. So, I don't know. And everyone's just like, yeah. It just, and then those, the videos, the Navy videos of in the fighter jets of, they leaked out. And then they confirmed that the leaked ones were legit. And then, the pilot was doing press tour on that and going on like Joe Rogan and other shows. And I'm just like,
it's crazy.
Yeah. They've never done that before. So what's going on with that? And so I'm, I don't know. People are like, okay, Project Bluebeam, which, who knows? That's fact. That's not, it became declassified. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy fact. And so who knows what's next is my point.
That's what we have to look forward to. And, there'll be a conversation that we can cover when it happens. And it'll be interesting as we look back at this video and say, hey, there you go. See?
Yeah, we talked about it.
But
check this out, guys.
I'm going to have to, we got to wrap this up. We're at an hour. And I've got somewhere I have to run to.
Can I just show one thing real? Can I just show one thing really quick here?
And
let's wrap it up, and then I gotta go because I'm late already.
Okay, let me just do this really fast here. Let me hang on a second. I want to show you this. This was leaked. This was a leaked calendar. So we had May. We had the endemic, and we had June the prize
solar flare.
We have a solar flare coming in July. In August, we got the Yellowstone eruption. September is the alien invasion. October, November, we got the return again, and then December we get an asteroid. So anyway, I thought we just ended on a high note there.
No. Sorry, because the solar flare I've talked about in the show about that's like the perfect false flag. Perfect false flag. Because how would you know? How would you know if it was true or not? And you can only you wouldn't have to have that many people involved in it. The less moving parts you have on your team to do a false flag, the better, because then there's less chances for them screwing up their stories like on prior false flags. And that's it. I won't say anymore.
Thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate you coming in. Man. Always love to have you on the show and on the round table. And Jeff, why don't you play us out here, man?
Man, DNI, really appreciate you being on. Chip, as always, another great round table. We will definitely look forward to having DNI back on to the round table once again. There's just too much to cover. So man,
so thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's always a good time, man. Always a good time.
Fantastic. Awesome. So on that note, I think we're out of here.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.